So I recently finished The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Before I talk about this, I should probably address the elephant in the room. Yes, I've started putting tabs on my books. It's the ones that I'm thinking of taking up to Scotland with me. Yes, this strawberry blonde disaster is also new. If I told you that the intent originally was for my hair to be white, would you believe me? No, you wouldn't believe me because I messed up that badly. Can you tell that I'm to blame for this atrocity? Like, it is horrendous. I am contemplating shaving my head. It is that bad. I don't know, talk me out of it. What do you think? But we're not here to talk about my horrendous hair. No, we're here to talk about The Bluest Eye. Whoa, my introduction to Toni Morrison, quite possibly the most vulnerable book that I've read in recent memory. She has a way of talking about race that is so beyond anything else I've ever experienced before, and I can't quite put my finger on how she does it. I think what really did it for me was the depth. This book goes in. Oftentimes, books that talk about race, very similar actually to books that talk about LGBTQ issues, they can be very sanitized, or they can at least come across that way. Maybe it's because of the author not wanting to appear too vulnerable. Maybe it's to do with like publishers putting pressure on them to not be too controversial in the things that they say. But this, there is a reckless abandon. Toni lays it all out, and you can just tell that everything was so raw for her and that she was really digging up things that she herself had gone through in her childhood. I mean, the whole conceit of it, this concept of a young black girl wanting to have blue eyes so that she will not be treated differently by all of the white people and basically society as a whole. It was based on a real exchange between her and her high school friend, where her friend came out with, "Oh, I wish I had blue eyes." Yeah, it definitely comes across. It is a scathing critique of the way black and brown people are treated, not just by white people, but actually the interesting bit about this is how black and brown people treat each other. This is a very good book about sort of like the self-hating of it, which again, in LGBTQ books, it's very similar. The idea that like you internalize all of this prejudice and then start projecting it out onto other people and the cycle continues. So I thought that was a really interesting take, a really refreshing take that we don't see as often in books about race. At one point, Piccola, one of the main characters that we follow in this story, she was the one who wanted blue eyes, and she has like this hallucinatory sort of fever dream where she's talking to herself, but the other version of her has blue eyes. And they're having this disagreement because the one with blue eyes is still insecure because she doesn't feel like her eyes are blue enough. And that's why the story is called The Bluest Eye, because it's that idea that even with blue eyes, you're still going to feel like your eyes aren't blue enough. You know, like there's always going to be someone out there that makes you feel inferior. And that's why it's like a losing game to sort of hate the things about you and wish like, oh, if only I had this eye colour or this hair colour. Jesus Christ, what is this? But yeah, it was a really thoughtful book. I loved it quite a bit. The only thing for me that I would critique is the way it bounces between the four characters' narratives. It's done seamlessly, but in a way that is a bit disorienting for my taste, only because you're already separating the chronology of the book into seasons. So then when that is juxtaposed to then jumping between four different characters, there were moments where it took me a minute to realise what was going on. Maybe that's just on me. Still, I thought the narrative could have been a bit more streamlined. I get where Toni was coming from because in the foreword she talks about how if the whole book focused on Piccola, she would enter like a bit of a victim sentiment where people would just feel bad for her and not appreciate as well how she contributes to the problems at large by hating things about her that there's nothing wrong with. So I get it. I get why there's multiple POVs, and some of them as well are really interesting and emotional, but I think there could have been a more organic way to jump between them. I'm not sure. What really made it for me as well though, I understand the argument where there are books that are so dark and upsetting that it just feels a bit like tragedy porn, and you're just having the same like feelings thrown in your face throughout the whole story. And I get that, which is why I think this book does a great job of understanding tone and how to change it and when to change it, because there are moments where you're so incredibly sad, the things that are happening are awful, and then the dialogue will switch it up. You know, there will suddenly be some light-hearted comedic moments, there's some funny scenes. Piccola's mum, not Piccola's mum actually, Piccola's friend's mum, I'm trying to remember her name, I can't actually, it's escaping me, but she was hilarious. She was like a great character study of like a mum who's been through it, you know, like she works hard, these ungrateful kids, she's just trying to make it work, and that whole, all of her scenes were really funny to me. And I liked as well, there's a scene where Piccola menstruates for the first time, and her friends make it so lighthearted and funny, like when they're like, oh, you're menstruating, you're ready to have babies, and they get out like the soap and water to wash the stairs because she bled on them. Like, it takes a very serious moment and flips it into something relatable and like and light-hearted. Like, you're not constantly in like the sad corner of it all, you know? So yeah, to the surprise of no one, I'm sure, Toni Morrison is a talent. This will not be my last dive into her work. To think this was a debut as well, like it has so much wisdom and like experience to it. Like, I have such a hard time believing that this is the first book she ever published, because it's just right from the jump she gets it. So very excited to see what else is coming from her. 1 second, my horrendous hair is getting in my face. Ugh, what did I do here? What did I do?